politics, and pop culture.
It's your boy, Mike Muse. Welcome to another conversation, the Mike Muse Show. What a fantastic conversation that we just had with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. I still cannot believe I had Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis on the Mike Muse Show, the true dynamic duo that's responsible for the biggest artist who I love, Janet Jackson. I cannot believe I had them on there. I can't believe I got them to tell stories about Janet Jackson and how her songs iconically got made. Those are the architects. I mean, I'm still pinching myself from it. Clearly, I'm not taking my black off. I wore it in uniform and solidarity. I had to put the shades down for this one because this dynamic duo is just too dope. I could not do this interview with shades. I had to be able to look them in the eye just because they need to see the sincerity in me. I'm so proud of these two. It just makes no sense. They've done the unimaginable. You remember them. They actually came on the show really early on during the pandemic. I think it had to be around March, April, right when this thing called RW Quarantunes was just taking off. I met them. They had raised around, I believe, $100,000. And at the time, the daughter of the duo was maybe a rising senior. I think she was around 16 at the time, maybe early 17. Now she's an 18-year-old force. She is a philanthropic individual of the year. Yes, I said individual because Disney changed their award that they give to the philanthropic man, I believe, so that she can actually be a part of that award. And I'll be doggone. I said, she reminds me of myself when we first started talking. Long and behold, this young lady has now got admitted to Stanford, my dream school that rejected the shit out of me. And so I'm so proud that she was able to do it. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the dynamic duo, the father-daughter combination, Richard Weitz and Demi Weitz of RW Quarantunes. What's happening, folks?
Mike, hype me up even more.
What's happening, Mike?
Yeah, I'm like, you're listing all of these things. I'm like, wow, did I really do that? And I'll carry you with me at Stanford for the both of us.
She should have gone to Michigan, so it would have been all in the family, right, Mike?
Richard, I was trying to tell Demi Weitz that she should have been a Michigan fan. We can still say go blue, but listen, Demi Weitz, I just hope one day I can join you at one football game before you graduate. You know, I always want to be a part of Stanford's marching band. They wear these really cool uniforms, like floral t-shirts kind of vibes. I'm like, Demi Weitz.
We would love to meet you at some point too, so it'd be great to actually go to a game together.
Listen, the world is open. The world is open now. I'm double vaxxed. I hope you guys are too as well. So now we can finally meet outside of this famous kitchen. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, this kitchen is infamous. I'm sure it's going to be in the Smithsonian Museum at some point. This is where all the magic began. This is where I met them to now where they raised $100,000. Now they have wrapped Quarantunes at $26 million later, all from this kitchen. Demi, talk to me about the feeling of that. You're 16, you're 17. You started with a simple goal of 100,000. Started off with a birthday party. Here we are. You guys have shut down Disneyland. You partnered with Star Wars. You had Jeff Katzenberg. You had all the most iconic people. And Demi Weitz, you had Clive Davis co-hosting with you. I mean, pinch me. Like, are you pinching yourself?
I mean, there are moments where it's genuine confusion. Like my dad and I this morning, we were just talking about everything that happened throughout the year, all the charities we've done. Now we've done over 50. And it's the craziest feeling to look back and be like, did we seriously do that? Like, it doesn't feel real. The people we're pairing together, the conversations we're having, the audience, the causes, how much money we've raised. You say $26 million and you're like, wow, that's a crazy number. But when you're actually on the Zooms and you're watching the shows or whatever, what really hits me is seeing how it's helped people's mental health during COVID, because our Zooms have kind of been an outlet for people to just have a good time and all of that stuff. So it's been crazy. Like, never in my wildest dreams when I said I wanted to raise $10,000 did I think I would be sitting here 15 months later having raised 26 from this kitchen. And I'm so grateful for the experience because I can't believe I was 16. That feels like forever ago. I was definitely a girl back then, but now I feel like I'm a woman. As cheesy as it is, I've gotten some real hands-on experience, and I am just so beyond appreciative and thankful for my dad and everyone that's helped. And Clive Davis is a serious legend. And he said I had a good singing voice, so that's all that matters to me.
You know who else has been a legend who has not missed one besides you, the legendary Mike Muse.
Yeah.
But Jimmy Jam, who was just on with our great friend Terry Lewis, Jimmy has never missed a Quarantunes.
He hasn't.
He has provided so many artists to help be on, but also his commentary with them. And it's crazy because when you look at like his incredible new record, Charlie Wilson's on his record, we've had him. Morris Day, we've had him. Babyface, we've had him. Mariah Carey, we've had her. Boyz II Men, we've had them. And so we haven't had Sounds of Blackness. We haven't had Tony Braxton, but all these iconic artists that he has worked with, especially that they've worked with on this album they just talked about, they've been part of it. And the journey to be here in the kitchen, to be able to say that we are friendly with really Jimmy, who is essentially our co-host, and Clive Davis has been crazy.
I've claimed Jimmy as my godfather. I love that man so much. I mean, obviously everything that he's done for the music industry is crazy, but for me, it's the way he presents himself and he articulates. And I've learned so much from him on how to be a good human and to listen. And he's just been a really good person for me to confide in. And I know these Zooms would not be the same without him, but he really helped me work through a lot and grow through this process. So he's a great dude overall.
I think what's happening
is
with Jimmy also too, if you guys heard, he also said that he loves you. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why Jimmy is so dope, because there is something that Jimmy actually said, and Jimmy, you referenced the healing power of what you guys have been done for mental health. Jimmy not only just said on air how much he loves the both of you, Richard and Demi, and what an awesome time and a journey and experience this has been, but he also is quoted in an article saying, quote, "They believe the music is universal language. It's the thing that brings us all together. We had a situation with a pandemic where people were stuck in their homes and couldn't do anything. Music to me was always the balm that made it better." Jimmy goes on to say the Zoom screen was like a quilt with different colors, textures, themes, welcoming old people, young people, Black people, white people. Everybody, when the music started playing, everybody had a common head nod or a hand clap. That is Jimmy talking about you guys, and that he goes on to say, Richard, that the music speaks to everybody. He said you use the word healing power of music, not only to help people mentally, but to inspire them to give back. What do you take away, Richard, when you hear an icon, someone as Jimmy Jam saying that about you and your daughter?
Humbling, incredible, a moment in time where when we started doing what we did it for humanity, and we did it at every moment. And when he talks about the quilt of music and how the power of music, I mean, Mike, you've been on these Zooms, you see that we were building, whether it's a Broadway star, whether it's Lin-Manuel Miranda or Barry Gibb or Barry Manilow or her or Morris Day, Saida Garrett. I mean, you can go on Art Garfunkel. I mean, let's just go down the list of the 500 plus people that we've had. When someone as legendary as Jimmy, who has in the music business for a very long time, those guys been together 35 years that this record's celebrating, for them to say that when you're a fan is, I don't know, it's like a dream, because up until Juneteenth, when we did our final one with the NAACP, we sought out to have our computer, have a couple of drinks, have people at home. They couldn't go anywhere. We wanted them just to have fun. We didn't care who was on. It was only, the only limit was the amount of people that were on the Zoom. And so to have Jimmy say that, and also his feelings about Demi throughout this and her growth, and she says he's like a godfather. He's really become a mentor to her, and it's been really nice. It's been really nice.
I want to say, an audience, you know me, I'm very honest in my thoughts. I was just, as you was on me on this journey when I interviewed the director of Space Jam, and I told Malcolm Lee, he's a friend of the show, that I did not want to see Space Jam, and that I thought that another Space Jam shouldn't have been made. And then when I had the chance to go to the screening, I regretted every word that I said. So in that same vein, audience, you know, when Richard and Demi came on, I knew Demi was special. I knew Demi had this X factor. I didn't know what the thing was. I just knew Demi reminded me of herself, someone who's caring, empathetic, and really got social construct. But honestly, it was Richard Weitz. I didn't know how to take Richard. Richard, you know, he's as Michael Strahan, I believe, Richard called you the most powerful agent in the universe, I believe, or something of that nature. And so I just thought Richard Weitz was this really big Hollywood agent. He came on my show smiling and schmoozing. I was like, oh, he's doing the agent thing. And so I really thought that the reason why they were going to be so successful because Richard is, you know, knows all these people and is a great agent. But actually, I was proven wrong. Richard, thank you for proving me wrong. You are an incredible human being that has an agape love for people, and you are so altruistic. And for me, I think what changed it for me was recognizing how authentically you are a lover of music. And I think that is what threw me off, and that made me look at you differently. How did you really get, before I come to Demi next, how did you get to have such a love for music? Because that was a secret sauce. The secret sauce was a storytelling and seeing you so excited about the artist and then you being able to talk about it with such empathy. Talk to me more about that, because I think that is really what defined Quarantines.
I came out as a fan. I mean, grew up in Philadelphia. There was such great music that was there, and they would shine a light on Patti LaBelle or Teddy Pendergrass or Gamble and Huff, and I just started learning from the roots. My best friend Richard Suckle was the one who would just take me to these record stores all the time. Sound of Market 1, 2, and 3. We would park our car. We'd buy these 12 inches. We'd buy the cassettes. He would buy Billboard. We would just talk about it, and I would just like everything from Miles Davis to Run DMC to New Edition to Tina Marie. I mean, it just was just crazy. And R&B, especially more living in Philly, going to school in DC, that was the music that I was surrounding by. Yes, of course, there's Billy Joel and there was Bruce Springsteen, who I love just as much. But I really started to find that I could listen to Les Miserables and I could also listen to Johnny Gill and New Edition and Bobby Brown and love it. And so as the years go by, I was just a fan of all kinds of music. Doing Quarantines, what I actually realized is I did miss a bunch of the 90s. I knew the songs. I was working so hard. I missed it. I mean, I did. I have to say, like, yes, I love Puffy and I love Mace and I love, Biggie and Tupac. That was great, but I didn't go to those concerts. I was just working. So I have to go back to the 70s, specifically 80s, as you know. That's my fastball. And then anything around the musical world I did. And then we got back into the, latter part of the 2000s. But what made it special for me and why I really knew about a lot of these artists was I could talk to Jeffrey Osborne about the Woo Woo song, was because I know where I was in my life at that point. And all of those were connective to the quilt that I think Jimmy's talking about. I was a Jimmy Jam fan. I knew what he had done. I knew what LA and Babyface had done. So that information just came out of never doing research. It just came out of being, a curious fan. Also, because there were CDs at the time, so you would open up and look at the liner notes and who wrote it and who produced it and all that. And today, although Spotify does have it, you can look at song credits. I don't know if you can see it on the music sites. So
it's not the same.
You have to really search for it
but
now.
He knows like who sampled what song, like all of that stuff. He's like an encyclopedia for music, which I just think is so interesting because, like you said at the beginning of the show, if you read about it or hear like a little clip or whatever, you think my dad is like a mega agent, and he's great at his job. But I like seeing the stripped down version of my dad where he's just that Philadelphia kid who loves music and has a passion and drive and innate curiosity. And that's what comes through when he's talking to these musicians or about music. And that's what I think is the most inspiring part, or what I like working most with you.
Thanks,
or why.
It is. And also too, if you're open and Richard, you proved to me that you were, and you didn't have to prove anything to me. But in this day and age where people adapt music for clout or for marketing, when you're open to music and open to the range of music is history lessons, it's teaching about culture and movement and what's happening in society at the time. And I think that's why you were so seamlessly able to interact with the audience, your guests, from a very authentic manner. Demi, you, when I first met you, you was this curious 16-year-old. You were extremely mature. You were talking to me a little bit about some of the critical race theories that you had, and I knew you were smart. I knew you got it. But it wasn't until I really saw you having a conversation, this so happens, a poster is right behind me about Just Mercy. And seeing you be able to interact with Ryan Stevenson, Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx on Just Mercy in the criminal justice system. I had the pleasure to do a town hall with them hosting, and that's not easy. And then to see you to bookend it at the end, the Google conversation and interview the president of NAACP, Derek Johnson, and you handled it with such dignity, empathy, right, and grace, and a curiosity that didn't seem patronizing and not something of sincerity, but it was so authentic. Talk to me about how you were able to develop such a social construct and such a curiosity for learning about systems and things that isn't of your world in Beverly Hills, and do it so seamlessly.
Thank you, Mike. I mean, speaking to those, people were so intimidating. I mean, Brian Stevenson is my idol, and I just praise him and all of the work he's doing. It makes me want to get more involved. But I've always loved sharing other people's stories. That's what I think this platform has been the most useful for, and that's what we're doing. I wanted to be a director because I wanted to share people's experiences. I just absorb things. That's what I do. And I took that idea and passion and we brought it to Quarantunes, and it's been able to tell other perspectives and stories and really listen and educate ourselves. And I took a class my junior year of high school called Critical Race Studies, and it's basically all about critical race theory. And I am so sheltered, I'm so privileged, and I really, really recognize that. I approach everything in my life not from a lens of I don't know. I'm always curious, and I think sometimes kids think they know everything, and I am in such a bubble. In this class, I just completely immersed myself in it, and it changed my life. I really, really was open to learning and growing, and that's all I want to do. I really want to get involved with prison reform now because I didn't know anything about it. And I ended up doing an independent study I expanded it to gender as well and ethnicity. And it was so great to just read and learn and have discussions just from a place of hearing other people's experiences and talking about work. And I think that for schools everywhere, we need to change what we're teaching in history classes. Instead of having a textbook about history where it's a date, like the civil rights movement didn't end. It says it ends in 1965 or whatever date. It's still going on. It's just taking place. It just looks different than it did back then. And I think that's what I learned because I was taking AP US history and then my critical race studies class at the same time. And I was able to juxtapose the two and be this isn't adding up. Not to go more in depth about it, but we were learning about imperialism in my class, in the critical race studies class. We read this amazing book called How to Hide an Empire, and whoa, I knew nothing about America because I don't learn that in my history courses. And then in my APUSH class, we spent a day doing a packet about imperialism after doing 2 months on it and doing in-depth writing. So I think we really need to push kids to learn even more, because I took that and I'm this is not okay. We need to change the education system everywhere. So I think that's what really motivated me. And I was this is just not adding up, and this is not okay. And this is the story that we're teaching everyone. So
ladies and gentlemen, that is Demi Weitz. And that is why they have been so successful. It isn't because of Richard. It literally is because Demi Weitz was the soul and the spirit of Quarantunes. And this is how she talked every week that I had the chance to join. I got a chance to learn about her constitution. Talk about privilege in action. Before I come to you, Richard, privilege, white man. Let's talk about privilege in action, how you were able to go from $10,000 to $26 million. That is exercising and using your privilege for good. What would you say to the parents who are listening, who have kids who may be thinking about something? What would you say to those kids who are of your generation or even older, the millennials, who think that maybe one can't change. What is a lesson and takeaway from you about putting your privilege to action? And I want to be clear. I mean, my audience knows I define privilege not just if you live in Beverly Hills. I define privilege if you had books in your home. I define privilege if you have a park, if you have green grass near you, right? Like, so privilege just always isn't just Beverly Hills. But talk to me a little bit about that. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Well, I love your definition of privilege, and I definitely am so privileged. And I think my whole entire life, the way my parents raised me was to be aware of that and grateful for that, instead of really getting thrown into a like snobby lifestyle. And I went to a private high school. Like, I had such a good education, and I really think it was taking advantage of those resources that I had that got me to realize how lucky I am, because I love learning. And I think in quarantine, I was just sitting in my bed watching TV. Like, literally, that's what I was doing before quarantine started. And sorry for my language, but I was like, what the fuck? Like, I can do something with this. Like, what am I doing right now? I have seen How I Met Your Mother 16 times through. Do I really need to watch this 17th time? No. Yeah. So I got up with my dad and I did something, and it was something what I thought was small. I had no gauge of money. I said this all the time. I was like, $10,000. Like, that's going to be very hard. And when we did it, my dad was like 30,000. I was like, there's no way that's going to happen. Then we got to 38,000, and someone was like, if you get to 50, we'll match it. I'm like, whoa, someone themselves is going to have $50,000. Like, I had no idea. And what I realized is you just have to keep going. And regardless of your circumstances, I know it's really easy for me to say, and I'm recognizing that. But if you do one little thing, this is the piece of advice I give everyone, you don't know whose desk it's going to land on. It's not like you don't know, or you don't know who's going to get this Zoom link. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So
that's it right there, Demi.
The people that matched the money in the first place weren't on the first Zoom. They just heard about it because people were talking about it. It just happened to land. The link happened to land in the right person's mailbox, who told their friend about it, who wanted to get involved, who told their friend about it. So it really just expanded through word of mouth. But whether it was 10 people on the Zoom and I was like, we should all raise money, let's reach out to 10 people who will reach out to more people. Like, you just want to spread the message and keep going, because you have no idea who's going to see it. And I think for us, it was like $10, $5, $20, $1,000, whatever anyone could give. People could see like the place we were coming from, and it motivated others to give back. And that's what really propelled us, because then organizations started getting more involved. We started talking to them. And I don't really remember what the question was that you asked.
No, you're great. No. You're great. At the end of the day, audience, the biggest takeaway is you just never know who's watching. You never know whose desk is going to land on. Always show up, give your best, and be authentic. Richard, turning that to you, with all that being said, some could look at this as a fluke. Some could look at this as a phenomenon. Like, how are you going to look back on this experience with Quarantunes? And how would you describe this experience $26 million later?
A fluke.
Well, it's definitely a fluke. I think when anybody is trying to do something, they set it out to do something that's great. Doesn't normally happen. Greatness happens through authenticity. And I think what was authentic about this was we started to do this to raise money for a piano player who lost his job in Chicago. That is really how it started. It was, I hired someone, great guy named Dario Giraldo, plays the Redhead Bar in Chicago, to play for Demi's birthday. He needs some money. The friends didn't love it. I thought my friends would. They did. A couple of celebs came on, and then I did it again and had him play. It was a cocktail hour. It was like a piano bar. Tip him. Then we did it again. And then when we started to do what we could now call Quarantunes, thanks to Jeff Ross, the comedian, he was there in the beginning. It was just a variety thing. I was just in my computer bored. You could only watch The Tiger King so many times.
I was putting on different hats upstairs, trying to see who would like what I was wearing on the Zoom. And there were like 100 people on, and I was like, whoa, there's so many. Like, it was just for fun to help Dario at the beginning.
So anyway, Mike, here it is. It was a fluke. It was a fluke that out of the goodness of our hearts and my restlessness during a time where I was used to going to concerts and wherever else, I had to kind of sit around. I just didn't want to be on the phone all the time. I wanted to see people. I wanted to build a community. I wanted to see my high school friends, my family, Demi's, high school teachers, colleagues from work, anybody. That's what we invited. And then it got to people like yourself, through our friend Ross or whoever else. Like, I just invited whoever wanted to be part of a community. And then it started becoming a little more than that. Clive Davis came on. He started to give some conversations, started to educate people. Other artists came on. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're here. Remember that song you wrote? And it was a fan who became a co-host of a talk show on Zoom, which no one knew what that was, with his daughter. And as the money started to kind of start coming in, we were doing it for COVID related charities. We were doing it for hospitals. We were doing it for the New York City public hospitals. We were doing it for, the Sabana Community Clinic and Cedars-Sinai. And then other things came around. People heard about it. They wanted to be part of it. Goldman Sachs came around. Friends started to add to it, just how we got connected to you. They thought we were doing something that was great. We were on the Howard Stern show, not like this show. They talked about us like, oh my God, can you believe it? It was not supposed to be what it became, but it just overtook the world. And it really was something that became special between us. No one ever duplicated it. Not one person in the world ever duplicated it.
We have good banter.
And people wanted to be part of it. And I think that people don't have the patience. And when you talk about privilege, here's the thing. I took my love for what I do every day, representing artists and going to concerts and spending the money like everybody else. And I wanted to bring that to everybody. I wanted to bring happiness. And if we could raise some money for people, that would be great. And we took some people into our community and they came on our journey. You were one of those people. And I just love that we're bookending. This is our third time, by the way, that we've been on, not the second. It's our third time that we've been on. And when we get a chance to finally meet you, we're going to give you a hug and say thank you, because you're
I can't wait.
Those chats, and to be able to be on following Jimmy and Terry on the same show. It's just meaningful, because if I look back, our second one that we did was with Big Boy. But our first one that we did, our first one that we did happened to be with Clive Davis. And to start with Clive where we started, and to end with Jimmy, who we did the NAACP on Juneteenth with as our co-host
in the Clive Davis Theater at the Grammy Museum.
It's very special. And I think it's an end to this chapter. It's not an end to Quarantunes. It's an end to this chapter. I do want to say that the reason why it's called RW Quarantunes, just because I would love to call it, Demi Weitz Quarantunes, was that the term Quarantunes was already having a patent. And so
RW Quarantunes was before we started raising money, and I was really involved.
Yeah.
But I do want to speak on something you said. Are you done?
I was just going to say, I you don't have to put that in there, but that was just for me to say.
No.
That's how it got named. That's where the RW came from. If I could start over again, I would call it Demi Weitz Quarantunes.
I just call it Quarantunes.
I think that is the best way to end this conversation, because that actually made me pause. I didn't even realize we did it 3 times, nor did I realize the first time we did it was actually with Clive. And then to have full circle, your other co-host with Jimmy Jam to bookend it, I think that is magical. Ladies and gentlemen, you see why they are the $26 million fundraising dynamic father-daughter duo. I personally believe you have changed the way that nonprofits and community-based organizations should look at philanthropy and fundraising. To all you nonprofits out there, for all you philanthropic organizations who have these galas, I love a good gala. I love putting on my tux out here during gala season, which is even all for me to say. but they're boring. And I think you need to study Richard and Demi Weitz' way of how they approached raising money for nonprofits. Richard and Demi, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure those quarantines were not easy to produce. Thank you for giving us a look forward to on the weekends as we sat in our living room scared, afraid for what was next, and you helped give us a sense of community right from the kitchen. Demi, I cannot wait to see what you do next at Stanford and who you're going to become. And Richard Weitz, I can't wait to see what's next for you, my friend. I don't think your chapter is concluded. I don't know what's next for you, but I think there's some magic and something really unique and special for you. I'm a big believer in spirituality as a closed audience, that you can't plant all those good seeds in the ground and not reap some type of harvest. So a good seed, of good soil, of good ground equals a great and fantastic harvest. With that being said, I love you guys. Thank you for everything. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been our show for today. What a show. Until next time, folks. Peace.